Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the most fascinating and honestly most consequential periods in all of human history, Imperial China. We're going to examine a civilization that literally defined vast global influence for centuries. We'll be mapping out its incredible cultural highs and, its devastating systemic lows, too. We'll see exactly how massive leaps in innovation and just staggering wealth were ultimately paired with some pretty profound vulnerabilities.
It's basically the ultimate historical puzzle, right? What actually causes great civilizations to rise and fall? How can empires that are capable of such profound mastery, immense wealth, and groundbreaking technology still ultimately crumble? Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to explore that delicate balance between progress and instability, and we'll see exactly how a civilization can completely master the world, yet still fall victim to its own internal cracks.
To make sense of this massive, sprawling history, we need a clear mental model. So, we're going to trace a chronological journey through three distinct world-shaping eras. We'll start things off with the Tang Dynasty, move forward into the Song Dynasty, and finally, we'll explore the Yuan Dynasty. By organizing our journey this way, you'll be able to clearly see how the actions of one era directly set the stage for the next.
Here's our agenda for today. First, the Imperial Golden Age. Second, Tang, poetry and nature. Third, Song, industry and collapse. Fourth, Yuan, wealth and infrastructure. And finally, we'll tie it all together with the cycle of empires.
Section 1. The Imperial Golden Age. So these three dynasties collectively shaped a civilization that was defined by vast global influence. And we aren't just talking about a local superpower here. We're talking about an absolute engine of human progress. But this golden age had a really fascinating dual nature to it. On one hand, you have this profound artistic mastery. On the other, incredibly complex, intricate fiscal experiments. And this right here sets the stage for a really sharp contrast: the deep cultural achievements of one era versus the heavy economic machinations of the next.
Section 2. Tang, poetry and nature.
Long before any talk of industrial revolutions, the foundation of this empire was deeply rooted in culture. The Tang era is widely recognized as a golden age for poetry. The historical sources specifically highlight masters like the poet Li Bai, who utilized this beautifully concise language to explore really deep, resonant themes of nature and exile. Think about what this actually means. At the absolute height of its early power, this civilization was pouring its energy into the emotional and natural world. This profound artistic mastery wasn't just some side hobby for the empire, It was the cultural bedrock of the entire era.
Section 3. Song, industry and collapse. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we take a dramatic pivot here, completely contrasting the Tang's poetic focus with the Song's rapid, heavy modernization. Moving away from that poetic world of the Tang, the Song era was a massive explosion of groundbreaking heavy industry. We are talking about the very first use of paper money in economics, the adoption of coal fuel to drive incredible industrial growth, the invention of gunpowder, which completely transformed the military, and the rise of maritime power that just entirely reshaped global trade. To put that into perspective for a second, they were successfully using paper money half a millennium before it caught on in Europe. No way, right? These aren't just historical footnotes. They are literally the foundations of our modern global economy. The Song dynasty was out there building the modern world centuries before anyone else.
But, here is the major twist in our narrative. Right alongside this unbelievable, groundbreaking industrial growth was a fatal flaw: government-driven economic decline. Despite pioneering things like paper money and maritime trade, the state's convoluted economic policies actually drove the empire right into a steep downturn.
And that decline? It had absolutely catastrophic consequences. Those disastrous monetary policies created massive systemic vulnerabilities. Basically, the cracks in the system grew so large that they invited the Mongol conquest. The brilliant innovators of the Song essentially engineered an economic house of cards, and it simply couldn't withstand the outside pressure.
Section 4. Yuan, wealth and infrastructure.
So the Mongols have conquered, and a brand new era begins. To truly grasp the reality of this new empire, we're going to look at this newly conquered metropolis through the eyes of a famous outsider. We are talking about true urban sophistication, specifically as observed by Marco Polo. By viewing the Yuan era through his historical lens, we can really ground ourselves in the sheer, astonishing reality of what this empire looked like. He witnessed an immense scale of wealth, grand palaces, and incredibly advanced infrastructure that absolutely blew the minds of foreign travelers. Let's break down exactly what Marco Polo documented. He observed immense wealth distributed all across the empire. He walked through grand, sprawling palaces, and he utilized highly advanced infrastructure. And this brilliantly illustrates a vital point. Even following an incredibly violent dynastic shift and a foreign conquest, this civilization remained a heavily globalized center of power at the absolute peak of wealth.
Section 5. The Cycle of Empires.
Having explored the Tang, the Song, and the Yuan, let's take a step back for a second and look at the overarching narrative. In Step 1, the Tang dynasty achieved profound artistic mastery, a true cultural peak. Step 2 brought the Song dynasty's economic boom, which was fueled by intense industrial growth but ultimately ruined by government overreach. And that leads us directly to Step 3, internal systemic vulnerabilities triggering a massive dynastic shift, ending in conquest and the establishment of the infrastructure-heavy Yuan dynasty. It's a clear, repeating arc, where cultural heights and technological booms inevitably run straight into internal systemic weaknesses.
So why should you care about all this today? Well, because the echoes of these ancient dynasties matter intensely in our modern, globalized world. The story of the first paper money, the push for maritime power, the heavy reliance on coal fuel, and the stark danger of sweeping financial collapse, this isn't just dusty history. This is literally the genetic code of the modern world. We are living in the exact world they first started to build.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. If an empire capable of inventing paper money, harnessing coal, and writing timeless poetry could still collapse due to government-driven economic decline and systemic cracks, do our modern superpowers share these exact same systemic vulnerabilities today? Are our own complex financial systems setting us up for a similar shift? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the systems around you.